Hello, Mr.
Charlie.
Ross Davenport or Davenport. I just can't get it, man.
It's Devonport, like the
Devonport.
place in Devon. I mean, the place in England called Devon, which is on the coast. So you just got to think Devonport.
Okay, but it's spelled Davenport, so that's,
And
okay.
just like I occasionally spell your name wrong with an S,
Yes,
as you know.
that's fine.
But it still sounds the same when I do that. So
Yeah.
it's not quite the same. Anyway, welcome to episode 28 of Talking Florida Rugby Occasionally, or TFRO. This may be the shortest episode, Charlie. We're going to try and get out of here by 8:30 tonight.
Oh, good luck with that. Never happens.
We don't have much to talk. We don't have a load of games to talk about this past week.
No, that is
We
true.
do have some games to talk about, but we do have this Saturday's an absolute madhouse. We got games all over the place. We got quarterfinals, semifinals, all sorts, everywhere. Men, women, U19s. I think we have under threes somewhere, Charlie, I think being played.
Maybe.
It wouldn't surprise me if Key Biscayne's playing under threes at this point.
They do have some, that's for sure, because I've seen.
My name is Ross Devonport, not Davenport.
Devonport. Okay.
And this is my esteemed producer on the other side of the screen here, Charlie Velasquez, who's for some reason on one side of the screen and looking a little darker today. Or maybe it's I'm too light.
It's because of the shirt. I think it's because of
the shirt. I'm wearing my Freeport Rugby Club shirt today.
I don't have fancy lighting like you have. I still don't have that.
And I apologize if I'm looking a little stuttery or what's going on with my internet tonight, but we were scrambling. I was playing golf, so I was scrambling to get in here and get this set up. So for some reason, we're a little stuttery, but as long as you can still hear me, that's the main thing.
Yeah, you're good.
So, Charlie, how was your weekend? I know you went to tape some rugby.
No, I didn't go anywhere. I took it off. I sent somebody to tape.
You sent some of your minions.
Exactly, which was great. So, like, zero rugby for me. I stayed home with the kids.
Same here, because we've got 3 weekends of absolute insanity coming up.
Actually, you need now and then a little pause, right?
You do. There's no doubt about it.
So that was good.
We do have some games to talk about. We'll get to those in a little bit. Let's see. Let's talk about our sponsor first, Charlie. Before we get started with our episode, we do have somebody not related, but rugby related.
Just before I have to say hello to Valentina. Look at her. She's rocking her All Blacks training shirt.
I'll have to get her an England jersey so she can throw that piece.
No.
So she can use that to clean the car, which is all that jersey is good for, really. Let's be honest.
But I think she picked it herself, okay? Because she's
is that a bird? Is that a bird on her shoulder?
Yeah, she's got a little bird now.
Oh.
Freddie Mercury. That's his name.
Is that the name of the bird?
Yeah.
I do have a Funko Pop of Freddie Mercury, but I don't see it right now and within reach. So I'll have to look for him later. I can't find my Freddie Mercury Funko Pop, but that's a good name. I like it. Who named that?
The mom.
Okay.
So let's talk about our sponsor.
Does she sing like Freddie Mercury? Does the bird sing like Freddie Mercury? Because
not yet.
That'd be some money in the bank, Charlie. If that bird could sing like Freddie Mercury.
Oh yeah. No, he's like a puppy bird yet. He's
okay. We'll get him there.
He's a youngster.
We'll get him singing Bohemian Rhapsody before the end of the year. All right. Our sponsor, yes. If you have a business, or if you have a 401k, if you need a 401k, then you need to talk to 401k Florida. Their business is to tackle your retirement plan needs and goals. Their team has the expertise in the field of retirement plans, both big and small. So if your retirement plan hasn't been reviewed in a while, consider a complimentary, that's free, consultation by 401k Florida. You can visit 401k.fl.com to kick things off.
And listen,
Mick Graham for his sponsorship of the show, as well as Rugby. There is Mick with his sweet Rugby FL. I'm wearing my 401k.
Oh, I'm not
on that
worried.
side of that.
Oh,
it's on that side.
You know, I'm
wearing my sweet 401k FL hat. Charlie's not, but there's a picture of Mick Graham with his look at his. He's got a nice little lighting set up in the background there too, Charlie. He's got a ring light.
He's a pro. I'm not the only one who doesn't have one.
We had Mick on the show a few weeks ago. So if you have any 401k needs, then go to 401kfl.com or call Mick at 321-610-3200. And as you can see, all his info is there in the bottom corners of the screen as well, if you're watching and not on the old podcast side of things. And if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so at rugbyfl.com/GoFundMe or you can Venmo at RugbyFL. All contributions, great or small, are appreciated.
Or even a new sponsor we need. I have a little. Do you know we got a new sponsor for a couple of episodes? Did you know that, Ross?
You may have told me.
I'll give you a clue who it may be.
Flash?
Oh, yeah, you got it. That's why
Flash. You did not tell me that. Flash are going to be our sponsor. I'm ordering my. I'm in the middle of ordering my balls for Surfing Sevens, which is coming up on June 5th. Those of you that want to play some sevens, we're always the first tournament of the year, so looking forward to that. We're going to have Flash balls sponsored, hopefully, for our tournament in West Palm Beach. So thank you to Flash.
Yeah, I heard. I just spoke to them today, and they actually are getting also balls for Daytona and shirts. They provided balls for the union this year, so every team had a chance to buy balls. I think for like $1 a piece. Yeah, pretty much free.
They're very decent balls. They're basically free, so you can pay a little extra to have the match balls with the inflatable hole on the seam, which is that's always the good sign, Charlie. We know that's a match ball.
Oh yeah.
If the inflation hole is on the seam, if it's in the middle of a panel, it's just a practice or training ball. So that's how you know these things. Thank you to Flash. They've supplied lots of teams. I know they supplied, I think, the new Palm Beach U23 jerseys this year.
Yes, and Key Biscayne and Okapi and the Jaguares. It's not because they're going to become sponsors, but it's really some really well done stuff.
Yeah, out of Argentina, right?
Yeah, Argentina, and they are made in Argentina or Paraguay. No Chinese stuff.
I mean, we'll always take Chinese sponsorship too, won't we, Charlie? If a Chinese company wants to sponsor us, don't talk bad about the Chinese.
I wonder what's going on in rugby in China. Huh?
Listen, we know what's going on with rugby in Japan. China's not that far away.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, thanks to Flash. I know I have a pair of shorts that I acquired when the alumni team came up and played. I traded somebody a shirt for some shorts. So I do have a pair of Flash rugby shorts. All right, let's get on with this, Charlie. Did we you and I didn't talk about if we effed up last week. We kind of doubt. We ran a little late. I know that. We started late. We ran late.
We ran very late, and I know there was some issues on that side of the screen.
But that's all right.
Not mine. So hopefully today we'll get done earlier.
Yes, so I promise. The wife will be home from softball around 8:30, so we got to get done before she comes home.
Okay.
All right, if you'd like to join, we'll have open mic as always later in the show. I have no idea what we're going to talk about open mic. Charlie may know. I come in a little unprepared. Oh, we do have some possible topics that Charlie put on the rundown. Yes. So if you're interested in talking about anything, you go to rugbyfl.com/join. Just have yourself a pair of headphones and a decent internet connection, and come on, say what you have to say. We'll listen to anything as long as you behave yourself and don't curse too much. You can curse a little bit.
I know Jose Bermudez promised to come on because he wanted to say some stuff. So let's
Jose Bermudez of the Miami, of the Trident Rugby, who will host a D2 semifinal this weekend against Tampa, which we'll get to in a little bit for our previews. Yeah. But let's get to we have some special guests tonight. Our first special guest, we were supposed to have him on last week and perhaps the week before, but he's a very busy man. He is the president of Brevard Red Eye Rugby, and it'll be Corky Newman. Although Charlie, and I think the first email he sent to me about Corky, this is an inside joke. Autocorrect corrected his name to Cornet. So he's been calling him Cornet to me for the last 2 weeks.
Which is a great nickname. Come on. So I'm gonna bring in Cornet right now. Okay.
Let's bring in Corky Newman.
so my nickname is gonna have a nickname.
Exactly.
Yeah. What is your actual first name, Corky?
Warren.
And how did you get the nickname Corky? I guess we should start there. Is it a rugby nickname or is it a pre-rugby nickname?
Well, I'm named after my father. So my mother didn't want to call a little baby Warren. She didn't want to call me Junior. And so there was a show on at the time called Circus Boy, and the little boy in it was named Corky. She goes, "Well, that's cute. I'll call him Corky, and he can change it to Warren when he gets older." But Warren is too serious. I just couldn't do it. So I stuck with Corky.
This goes back decades. We won't say how many decades.
So guess who? Here's the trivia. Guess who played the little boy?
Oh man!
In Circus Boy.
I couldn't even guess.
Mickey Dolenz, later of Monkeys fame.
Oh, yes. Mickey
Yep.
Dolenz. Yes, one of the Monkeys.
Yep.
Interesting. I can see him being a circus boy.
I think it's available somewhere on YouTube somewhere.
Everything's available on the internet, Croaky, somewhere. You just got to look
somewhere.
hard.
I never heard about it, to be honest. So the second thing
they
is
showed it in South America. So.
you know you
He
have
knows
to
the Monkeys. You surely know who the Monkeys
oh yeah,
are,
the
Charlie.
monkeys. Yeah, I was actually living in London at that time when I was like 7, 8
Davy,
years
you
old.
remember the Davy Jones fan club? I'm sure.
No, not
The
really.
only English monkey.
But I do remember the monkeys. So I have another first question: is explain the name of your club.
Okay,
Yes.
so as story goes, the guys that founded the club in the mid '70s named it that because that's the way they looked on Saturday mornings when they would go play. There's a bunch of hippies and guys that like to party, so
Okay.
that's what we came up with.
So how is it
Brevard Old
exactly
Red
the
Eye,
name? It's Brevard Old Red Eye. That's
Right.
the official name.
Rugby football club. Yep,
Rugby. That's a long name. See.
I know. So,
And
Red
Corky,
Eyes, Old Red Eye.
give us your rugby background before
Well,
we get
I
into
started
some of the
playing
questions.
I'm sorry.
No, before we get into the Brevard
Yeah,
questions, get to some of your background.
I started playing in college at Mississippi State. I was playing flag football with a couple of guys that had gone to the Air Force Academy there, and they said, "Hey, we're going to start a rugby team." They played out there. They said, "We're going to start a rugby team. Do you want to play?" And I'm like, "Sure." So, I was in mid '70s, late '70s, and so I started
nice.
playing there, and I've been playing. Well, I moved here in '82, and played or been involved ever since.
Now, what state was rugby in Florida? Because obviously most of Florida rugby didn't really get going until I think sort of the mid to late 80s. So when you arrived in Florida, how was rugby here?
A lot of the teams that are still around were there. I mean, it was us, Orlando, of course, Boca, Fort Lauderdale, both Miami teams.
Yeah, because Boca's 76, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So mid 70s.
Yeah, so I got here in '82. Naples wasn't there with Fort Myers at the time, but then I guess there was just the Pelicans over on that side, and various colleges, University of Florida. So
and Florida State, I know, was one of the early ones as well.
Right. Yep.
All right. So how you've lived in Brevard for how long, or in the vicinity?
So, since 1982.
So that entire time. So was Brevard was here when you got here? When was the first year of Brevard rugby?
1975.
So, okay, so it had been around before you got here. So that's
right.
It's got to make it one of the older clubs then.
Ross, fun fact, on my website, you have, if you go to the clubs page, you can see the date of every club when it was established.
So do you have FAU? Because there's a dispute whether FAU started in 90 or 91, but so we get your information from. But we're not here to talk about FAU. We're here to talk about Brevard. So Corky, talk about
unsure. 74 or 75, but I made some logos with 75 on it, so it's 75.
There you go.
I have 74.
50 years will be coming up soon. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was just down, speaking of my Freeport shirt, I was just down there a few years ago for their 50th anniversary, and that was a blast.
Yeah.
So Brevard, talk about some of the history of this club and the success. Over the I'm not sure of the history of Brevard, so I'm not sure how much success the club's had. Has it been more of a social team over the year? And is this perhaps the most successful period we've seen in Red Eye rugby?
Well, we went through a period we were just a social club. I mean, back in the mid '80s, we were very competitive. We won the state championship in '87, I believe, and then we kind of went through a period. Well, right after that. Space Coast, which was based in Cocoa Beach, and they spun off from us. So that kind of put us into a lull for a while, but then they went away and here we are still standing. But for the past, I would say 10 or 11 years, I mean, we've been good, if not very good in that time.
Very competitive.
And, I mean, now that I think about it, it probably came to when I stopped playing and got more involved on the sidelines and behind the scenes. But of the last couple of years, we've been fortunate enough to have Mick Graham come in and really take us, I think, to the next level. We've always had a lot of great players, individuals, but he really has them all playing as a team. So
excellent. Yeah, let's talk about Brevard and sort of the challenges of rugby out there. As you mentioned, you had Space Coast, which I assume morphed into Treasure Coast at some point. And then, no, how did Treasure Coast come about? Because that's obviously another team that's sort of poached from your area as well as Indian River now.
Yeah, they're south of us. I mean, Space Coast. I mean, Brevard County is 72 miles long.
It is big, yeah.
Only about 20 miles wide at some points, right? So all the towns are concentrated right along the coast. So it's just, you're driving 30 minutes to practice, and so they just thought, and they thought they could do better up there. They actually have a lot of foreigners up there, more so in Cocoa Beach than down in Melbourne. So they were successful at that for a while, but then they lost their leadership, and make their club leadership, right? So
they
kind of dissolved in that regard, and so said we're still standing, but our main recruiting is an issue. I mean, we have thought about on any given day. Obviously, we beat Orlando twice this season, and on any given day we can play with a D2 side, but we can't. I don't think we can play with them every Saturday, and it comes to, there you go, Charlie. Thank you. It comes down to the number of people that you have that can travel, right, or your pack, and we just don't have that a lot of times. A couple of key injuries, and we're not looking too good. So, but
we've seen
been a great season. Last season was a great season. So, and it you benefit from good seasons in terms of recruiting. So
for sure. Yeah, I mean, we've seen D3 teams, Palm Beach has sort of been perhaps one of the strongest teams over the last 5 years, and then Gainesville as well. But then we've seen this year, Gainesville, really struggle for numbers just in the COVID era. And we can see how 1 year like this can really affect a team. But you guys, how have you guys dealt with the COVID situation and as the year's gone on?
I think we've been fortunate in that most of our COVID cases occurred in the fall. And, so we tell everyone, if you feel sick, do not come to practice.
Yeah.
You stay home until you get a negative test. So, people have been really good about that. I don't think we've had any cases this spring at all. So
nice.
It's been very fortunate. So,
yeah, let's talk about Mick Graham. How did Mick end up coming to Brevard? And he's obviously made a big difference to this program and has brought you guys now, to perhaps the brink of the D3 title. Palm Beach will obviously be no pushovers, but neither will you guys. Talk about what Mick's really brought to this club.
Well, I guess he'd been around a while and come out to watch some of our games, and then finally just decided to be more involved. He came out and ran touch over the summer with us 1 year, and then said he would like to hang out, and he thought he could help any way he could, and that fall and spring, and so basically he was just an assistant, right? And then he said, I have a plan to take us to the next level, and I'm like, okay, let's do it, right? And so now I've just kind of sat back and watched that. I try to help any way I can, but obviously, he has an idea of what he wants to do. And like I said, it's taken us away from great individual play to team play, where you don't run a play for the forwards and a play for the back. They're all integrated. It's calls are, from kickoff on. You have scripted plays even at times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, much more like the what you see on TV from the professionals. So he's just really improved us in that regard. Because he played at that level in Australia, so he knows.
Yeah.
And Scott Little, who were coaching before, I think we did a pretty good job, but we just didn't have the knowledge to take us to this next level. So,
no, it's been great to see you guys have sort of been on the fringes and got to that semifinal stage and just fallen the last hurdle. And I think this year could be the year. Talk about now I know the women are playing up there, the semifinals this weekend.
Right.
Talk about how that came about and what's the status of your field, and how's that going clubhouse wise? Is there anything that you guys are doing special? How did you guys end up hosting this?
Well, actually, I got a call from Indian River that they'd been asked to host as a neutral because the teams are from the north and the south, right, somewhat, and they weren't sure that they could get an acknowledgement on being able to host in time. And she called me up and asked if I would think I would be able to do it. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'll put a call in tomorrow and find out. And I called and they're like, yeah, there's nothing. See, we are a recreational partner with the county. So they manage the field, but anyone that uses it besides us has to get our approval. I mean, so if we have something scheduled, no one else can use it. Right. So I called them up and they're like, no one else is using it. You would have known if they were. So they're like, yeah, go for it. So we're hosting it. We've just got our new scoreboard up. And it's the old manual type that.
Nice. Charlie's a big fan of scoreboards.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And love it. I shout out to Boca. They made the numbers for me. So if anybody out there wants a manual scoreboard,
there you go. There it is. Good stuff. That's always great to have. I know.
That's a nice score.
The old scoreboard there above it, we're going to cover that with all of our sponsors on a vinyl manner, right? So
excellent. And is this a field you played on for a while, Corky, or is this something that's just come along recently? Because I know I've reffed up there. I'm trying to think of the name of the field that I've reffed on. I
was telling Charlie before the show, I got the idea last year when we went over and played Sarasota, and they've got a manual scoreboard on the side of their storage little thing, right? And I'm like, hey, we could do that on our old scoreboard. So I drew it up how I wanted it, and Mick had his handyman do it. And so we had a field day, a work day at the field before the season started, and we put it up, and we cleaned up the concession building and just did a whole bunch of work on the field. It's not in the best shape. The field itself is not in the best shape right now, but we hope to correct that by next year.
It's really hard and expensive to have a really good field. I mean, it is. But let me ask you this, because one thing that normally happens around a team that is successful on the field is because you have a team of people working behind the scenes that make this possible. Is this the case for Brevard? Do you have like a large team of people, working behind the scenes?
No, pretty much.
No? It's a very talented.
I joke that I'm not president, I'm dictator for life, because I literally have been president since 1983. Okay,
I must be the longest serving president in Florida.
Well, probably, sometimes that works.
But I've got a group of old boys that if we need something, I can call them up and they'll do it. Also, I mean, we're about to have our 30th annual golf tournament. It would be the 31st, except it got canceled last year, and we're going to raise over $10,000 at this thing, right? So to do that, we need all of their help, and they become the sponsors, and some of them, lean on other guys to be sponsors, and we never have a problem filling it up. I mean, it's the same people play over and over, and we have to put some of them. We'll have 144 golfers out there, right? And
wow.
And just a great day of doing it. And it's been successful. I mean, after we got it rolling, it just became a thing. I mean, people they love hanging out. I mean, it's with us and being part of it. Some people that play have never seen a rugby game, right? But they just love being able to say that they were part of it, But, my philosophy about all this is that, you've got a club and you've got a team, right? And the club provides the inputs for the team, money wise or supply wise or whatever they need so they don't have to worry about anything except playing. All they have to do is be the best players they can be, get in shape, run your drills, know that, and know the plays, come to practice. Don't worry about money. If guys can't pay their dues, we only charge $50 a season for dues. Right. And we don't charge rookies because I'll have, like I said, we raise the money, or we have old boys that will say, hey, I want to sponsor a player this year. right? And
You may get some guys. You may get some guys moving from down here
Yes.
up there
Hey,
just
come
because
on.
of the dues. You know.
$50.
I know,
That's
I
a
mean,
great deal.
we're just very fortunate that we are recreational partners with the county. I know a lot of people have to pay to use fields. We don't have to do that. We only pay $15 an hour for lights, and so it's we try to keep it.
When I was with the Miami Youth, we paid $70 for each practice.
Yeah.
Listen, Corky's up in the middle of nowhere there, Charlie. This is the Tri-County area. It's like a different country down here. But
We got
Corky,
lots of room. Come on up.
right? Trust me, I've thought about it plenty of times, Corky. Get the hell out of this Tri-County area. But anyway, let's talk about the upcoming game. You got. Listen, I'm just looking at this schedule. You guys have almost had a month off.
I know.
Before this Pelicans game on the 17th. Is that going to be a negative thing for you guys, or do you think you'll be able to take care of the Pellies okay, and then obviously you'll only get a week off then until the final against either Palm Beach or the winner of Jacksonville, Sarasota?
Well, we are going to be rusty. I mean, we've had some very nip and tuck games with the Pelicans over the last few years, but we're fortunate, and they have to come to us. So hopefully that will be our main advantage. But I think we'll have everyone healthy. So, I mean, we thought about scheduling some games, but it just didn't work out between Easter and other things that it didn't give us the right timing. And then this thing came up with the women this weekend, so we didn't really want to have a game the week before a playoff game anyway. So,
well, hopefully you've had some good numbers at practice, and best of luck on the 17th. I think everybody's looking forward to a potential Brevard Palm Beach final. You guys haven't met this season, but you've had some great matchups over the last few years.
Yeah, last year was a great game, and it's unfortunate we didn't get to meet in the playoffs last year. And I really feel bad for Gainesville this year. I mean, we've had great contests with them over the past several years. They were always like our measuring stick, and then we were able finally to beat them last year. But then the game we were supposed to go up there and play them was when COVID stopped everything. So
that's right.
I have before we let him go. What
on,
are you? Because we were talking before the show started. Talk a little bit about your plans for the future, because that is something that when you are, as you said, like trying to have your club, that is something that has to be within your planning, right?
Right, and it's got to start. We've got to recruit better, of course, but. We need to take more control of our field, and we try to work with the county on that as much as we can. And we've actually looked into buying fields in the past, but they would all be out west of I-95 on pasture land or something that we would have to develop. And this actually is a great situation. It's an onus on us, but the problem is the fact that our county is 72 miles long. And then that's like where we practice right there. There's the field across the street too with lights. And actually, they're going to put lights on our field later this month after the playoffs.
Oh, nice.
Great.
But it's hard to get youth to come from all over the county there. It's hard to get their parents to, they just get tired of driving. So
yes,
what we would like to do, we have.
You should give them gas money.
Is to put like 5 or 6 different groups around the county at elementary schools, elementary middle schools, or at daycare centers or parks that are used as daycare centers right after school, right? And then run programs out of there where each one of them, if they have enough, they could be their own team, and we could play interleague matches on Saturdays at the field. Great. But then to travel down south where all the real youth teams are, then they form one team. That would be Brevard going down there to play, unless one of them becomes stronger. But right now we're just looking at getting the kids in at the late elementary, early middle school level, and get their parents involved too, so they know about, they can become involved in the whole family concept of rugby, and like they do overseas or in other rugby fanatical countries. So
no, 100%. Brevard Red Eye doing things the right way, and Corky is the leader of that mission. And Corky, appreciate you coming on tonight. Best of luck. Best of luck.
The dictators, he said.
The dictator, as Jerry Fitzgerald used to call himself.
It's a benign dictatorship, though, okay? I've like banished some people, but I have not killed anyone.
Okay.
Well, listen,
a nice dictator.
Yes, the club wouldn't be where it is today without you, Corky. We appreciate the time and effort you've put in to helping keep this club going and being as successful as it is. And again, look, best of luck next weekend against the Pellies, and hopefully we'll see you in the final as well.
Okay.
Oh, let me ask you just one last question, okay? If you make it to the final, we have to put an if before everything, right? And then you win the final. Would you guys be willing to play the winner of the D2 final a couple of weeks later? This is an idea I've been floating around. What do you think?
If they would come to us, we probably would.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
Well, if it's
okay,
yeah, it'd be interesting. The Charlie Velasquez Bowl, I can see it coming right now. It's going to be sponsored by Flash Rugby. We're going to have a little prize money, perhaps. We should have a little prize money, Charlie.
Yeah, why not? Because nobody's going to any national event, so just to add one more event, which I think would be, why not? We haven't played much rugby.
I mean, who are some of is like Naples? Who are the better D2 teams? I know the Tridents are really good.
The Final Four, is Tridents, Naples, Orlando, and Tampa. So
right. Well, I mean,
that's the Final Four this year.
Right. I'm familiar. I know Orlando, but I haven't seen the other guys play. We were actually talking about going down and playing a friendly with the Tridents this weekend. I just couldn't get enough interest in it. So.
Well, I see there you have
Jared and Sean said they'll be up for it. So let's do it. Although Charlie, any complaints from the wives and girlfriends, I will be sending them to us. I mean, I'll be sending them to you. Excuse me. They all think the season ends on the 24th. If it's going to go into May, those wives and girlfriends are not going to be happy.
It's just one more game.
It can't be on May 8th. Can't be on May 8th. That's our golf tournament.
There you go. May 1st. May 1st. Let's do it.
Yeah, you have a nice excuse right there. Okay.
All right, Corky.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us tonight. And again, best of luck in the playoffs.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, Cork. There's a good Florida rugby man right there. Everybody knows that name, Charlie, but not everybody knows Corky. He kind of hides in the back and keeps himself behind the scenes, but he's done a great job of making this Brevard team as good as they are.
That is one of the good things that come out of the podcast. I think that people start to, look who's, they get to see the faces.
Now they can ask Corky for autographs. He's going to be hounded next game for autographs for being that guy that was on the podcast. All right. Good stuff to have Corky on. Again, Brevard host the Pelicans on the 17th. They'll have been more than a month, I think. So I think that game against Gainesville was a forfeit, right, Charlie? The last time they went out? I think it was.
Yes.
So it'll have been more than a month since Brevard last played. So they may come out a little rusty in that game, but I think they'll have enough to take the Pelicans and hopefully set up that championship game against Palm Beach that we've all been looking forward to.
So I got a message from John Signer, which was our next guest.
Yes.
He's actually not going to make it.
That's all right. He's a busy man, John Signer.
Because he's actually at the field. He's actually at the field cleaning up still. Yeah. I am going to ask him if he can just drop in, from his phone and say hello. That would be nice. But
no biggie. That was a good thing we have our other guest then from Tropical Sevens. So Tropical Sevens was this past Friday, Saturday, always Easter weekend in Orlando. Tropical Sevens, quickly becoming one of the best sevens tournaments in the country. And obviously travel was a little limited this year for certain teams, so they didn't have quite the worldwide presence that they normally have, but they had a ton of teams come from all over the country. And we do have our referee coordinator for Tropical Sevens, Roy Monk, who can tell us, also the president of the FRA, who can tell us a little bit about this weekend and how it went from his point of view.
So let's bring him in.
Bring that man in. There he is. Roy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Roy.
Obviously a previous guest and friend of the pod. And so tell us a little bit about how this weekend went. I know it was obviously a smaller event than previous years. We didn't have it last year, obviously, because of COVID. But I know in 2019 it was, blowing up into one of the biggest tournaments in the country.
Yeah.
And
so
this year we had 4 fields.
2 years ago there were seven fields. Last year there were supposed to be 8 fields with I think 24 games per field per day. This year, due to the COVID situation, that was cut in half. So we had 4 fields and 171 games spread over the 2 days between the 4 fields.
Still a ton of rugby.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, a ton of refs required. How many refs did we have there this past weekend?
So for the first time, last year was supposed to be the first time we put it into practice. Obviously, we didn't get a chance. This year, we provided a team of 3 referees for every one of the 171 matches and a dedicated referee coach for every single game as well. So we had 24 referees and 8 referee coaches on site for the entire weekend.
There's some photos there. Who's that in the orange?
That is Tom Camper.
I was going to say, Tom. I know Tom was taking photos of this. I wasn't sure if he had time to referee between taking photos, but
yeah, no,
those socks.
There's beautiful. He's got his socks up and his shirt is tucked in. Charlie, this is the first time we've seen Tom Champa.
That's why you couldn't tell. That's why.
Must have been the first game of the day then.
No, it's just the fact he's on a national stage and refereeing sevens. He knows he's being watched, so he's going to make sure he dresses correctly. As we see a nice try there from a big individual. We had plenty of divisions. We had U14 boys, U16 girls, U18 boys and girls, as well as U23 men and women. How was the quality of rugby?
This footage is provided by Sean Pruger, a.k.a. Hybrid from Brevard.
Hybrid, giving us some not bad. I like that hair right there. I need some of this guy's hair. Can he donate some to me?
That's a team from Alaska, I believe.
Yeah, is that the team that came the furthest?
We had
they won the
Hawaii
final.
and Alaska were the 2 furthest represented.
That's a long way to come in this COVID era, especially. So that's great to see. So yeah, Roy, tell us about how the 2 days went for you as a referee coordinator, and did we get to see some real quality refs?
It went extremely smoothly. The tournament was extremely well run, as always. John and his management team do a phenomenal job with the organization.
Absolutely.
And fortunately, he just, as far as the referees, match officials go, he gives us what we need and lets us coordinate our own schedule. He's very good about organizing the schedule on the fields to marry up with what we're trying to do with the referees and referee development. So it runs very smoothly. It was very easy to coordinate with 4 fields. We had 2 teams of 3 per field. So first team of 3 with their dedicated coach would do 3 games. And then they'd have an hour's break while the next 3 went on. And they just rotated like that all day, both days. We switched the teams up and the coaches up on the second day. So everybody got to work with somebody different. But it was a great experience for the referees in terms of quality of rugby, quality of the coaching and development that they got throughout the weekend.
Yeah, that's one thing that's great about these tournaments, whether it's 7s or 15s like we used to have with our Florida Day, just the opportunity to get referees coached all in one place. You need a couple of coaches to be able to coach. Obviously, 1 per field is great, but it's great to have all the referees in one spot. How many Florida referees did we have there, Roy?
Let's see. We had 5 referees. Let's see. Hawkeye, Kenny Handley, Tom, Kyle, and Kai. Oh, and Alfredo. So 6 referees, and then Haley and Terry Haas were there as coaches.
Good stuff. And then obviously next year we're hoping this thing gets back to the monster that it was turning into in 2019.
Yeah,
I know it's a lot of work for you, but
yeah, with 8 fields, we'll have 48 referees and 16 referee coaches.
it's going to be a beast. There's Alfredo giving a yellow card to somebody.
So, Ross, are you taking notes for your tournament?
This Kyle Van de Venter.
Yep.
One of our young up-and-coming refs who was playing until the middle of this season and then decided at the last minute he was going to pick up the whistle. I think he refereed a little bit in South Africa, but he's one to keep an eye on.
That is Haley on the left, I think, in this guy.
Yes, that's Haley.
Yeah.
Wearing her Irish Rugby Union sweatshirt.
Those bright orange shirts that you can't miss. Good stuff. Plenty of good photos from the tournament. Charlie, do you have a graphic of the winners? We can talk about the winners. We did have a couple of Florida boys. I know U14 boys was won by USA South Panthers Gold. U16 girls won by the Celtic, however you want to pronounce it, Barbarians, RFC. The 18 girls were won by the Charlotte Tigress, and the 18 boys were won by Rebel Rugby Academy. You know where they're from, Roy? You might have some more information on where. I know they had a couple of Florida boys on that team.
I can't remember where Rebel was from, I'm afraid.
I think I definitely had a couple of Florida products on there. And then U23 men was won by the USA South Panthers, who I think knocked off Life.
Yes, they did.
Who refereed that game, Roy? The big premier final.
The referee for that game was Brad Cole, who is out of Mid-South. He used to referee on the National 7 circuit, so he was the most experienced referee at the tournament.
I was going to say, I recognize the name. And then U23 women, I think, was an all-Life University final, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I believe that's correct. I believe Kai refereed that one.
Good stuff. So, yeah, Life University Black. And
that's why we needed John here, because he would know all this stuff just like that, right?
Here's some pictures of the winning teams, who hopefully will all be back next year to defend their title, especially if the Canadians come in. I mean, this tournament used to bring in a ton of Canadian teams and a ton of real talent as well. So overall, it seems like it was a great weekend, Roy.
Yes, it was exceptionally good weekend. It was great for so many people, referees and teams alike. It was for some of them, it was the first time they played to any rugby in over a year. So everybody was extremely excited to be out there.
And obviously, we've got the playoffs in our own state of Florida here coming up this weekend. We're going to have teams of 3 in almost all the games, I think, which is a nice little accomplishment. Thanks to all the new referees.
I have a graphic for that, Ross.
Yeah, show us the games this weekend. I think we've got teams of 3 in almost every game, I think, except perhaps one.
I think Tallahassee is the only one we don't have.
In the middle of Tallahassee. So there's your referee schedule for the weekend. So, yeah, ARs for every playoff game.
Yeah, that's not quite correct, but that's close.
I know, but that's Ross's fault because he changes stuff he doesn't let me know.
Yeah, because Haley
is refereeing the Orlando Fort Miami game, yes.
Yeah.
Because Charlie can't read. But that's okay. He can produce podcasts.
Yeah, Richard Marroquin and I are doing ARs for both the women's semifinals.
No, plenty of great games this weekend. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But Roy, thanks for joining us this evening. We appreciate you having at least one person from Tropical Sevens, and next year you'll have your hands full with twice as much work.
Yeah,
it's going to be a monster.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it though. It's a great tournament to be involved in. Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers, Roy. Anytime.
Talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Roy. Bye bye.
Sure. All right, Charlie, we do have some video of at least of one game. We have our game of the week. Do we have our game? Oh, Charlie, we forgot to mention our.
Just quickly before we leave the Tropical Sevens topic, I did try to get John. He said he was on the field cleaning up.
He's a busy man. He is a busy man. Maybe next week.
And I told him try to get on your phone to say hi, but I guess he's really busy.
He's busy taking posts out the ground, Charlie. He hasn't got any hands.
So we'll maybe have him next week. No, I just did want to say I heard some comments on social media about some guy complaining that this tournament was like it was poorly scheduled because it was like just in the middle of our season. Okay,
so it's the same weekend.
Well, that's what I tried to explain. This is really not a tournament for Florida. It's a tournament for basically the world, actually. So. It's announced a year in advance. So if anybody has to change anything, it would be us, not. I
mean,
him,
if that guy would like to schedule his own tournament at any other time of the year, I'm sure everybody would be welcome, and perhaps
that's what I said. We can play 52 weeks a year here. No, not a problem.
Listen,
And
it's always Easter weekend, so listen. I know travel can be a little more expensive on Easter weekend, but you know every year when it's going to be. You know the facilities are amazing. You know the refereeing will be amazing. You know the competition will be amazing. You can't please everybody, Charlie, as we know in the rugby world. You can't please everybody, and I know it's the sevens tournament in the middle of perhaps the U19 season, and perhaps, but this year, 90% of the country is not even having a season. So I think it was great to see so many teams.
Oh yeah.
Show up at the Omni Gate Resort and play on Friday and Saturday. All right, we forgot to talk about our Miami MLR update, Charlie.
Oh well, I actually have some news.
We do.
Yes.
We didn't do 3 quick things this week.
Nah,
yeah, no Miami MLR update. There was MLR this week. I didn't look too much into it because it was Easter weekend and I had a lot of things going on. So. We'll keep everybody get back to date next week. Let's just say that.
Or maybe not, but it's hard
Major
to keep
League
up.
Rugby if you want to keep up with everything. We're trying to shorten the episodes here. We've already gone 47 minutes. MLR takes up too much time. All right. It's time for Game of the Week, Charlie. Have you got your Game of the Week graphic for us?
Oh, I do. And we just have one game on video.
Yeah, we only had 3 total games because SoFlo Okapi was canceled due to a COVID issue on the Okapi side of things. It was a meaningless game anyway because both teams already had their playoff matchups predetermined. So we only had the 3 games. We had the 2 D2 quarterfinals, and we had one U19 boys play-in game because we had 9 teams that were available to play in the playoffs. Sarasota didn't have enough numbers to be able to play in the playoffs. So we did have Cape Pirates, who were the 8 seed, Charlie, or the 9 seed. They were the 9 seed. They visited Cardinal Gibbons, the 8 seed, one of the hottest teams in the state of Florida. They got off to a late start, but they're on a roll now. So let's roll the tape. Roll that beautiful bean footage. As that commercial used to say for the baked beans.
Hey, this is 4K video, okay? And you can
4K?
Really crisp.
Why is it not 8K or 6K?
Hey, man, because they don't pay enough.
There's Mark Martinovich in the...
And listen,
who's commentating here?
Oh, who could it be? Who could it be?
Do we have a Chris Ream sighting?
Exactly.
Was he doing play-by-play?
He was doing, something like that.
So we have Cardinal Gibbons in the red, including several players without numbers. If Rocky Miaris is watching this, please fix that by next weekend. We shouldn't have any players without numbers on the field. It is very annoying as a referee. I'm going to email him right after this. Is that the 8-man there, Brock Weaver, with a carry? Is this a yellow card here, Charlie? It is.
This is a yellow card.
That kid should have started the game with a yellow card for that haircut. But this is Cape Pirates we're talking about. We did try to have some representatives from Cape Pirates on after, which we'll talk about the ending of this game in a minute. And here come the big Cardinal Gibbons boys. They've got some size, Charlie. They may not have a whole lot of rugby technique and tactics, but their tactic is just to run through people. And listen, it's like
I would suggest anybody playing against Gibbons try not to commit any penalties in their own 22.
No, for sure. I mean, I reffed them against Key Biscayne. Those Key Biscayne boys, I think, are still hurting from that game. They had to have made 100 tackles in that game. Most of them on the fringes of the rocks against boys 100 pounds bigger than them. Here's Cape Pirates. Cape are in the gray and black, obviously. This game, I think, was it close for a little while, Charlie? It got out of hand pretty early, didn't it?
I don't think so. No, it was.
There's Brock Weaver running through it. Listen, there's a fly half myself. The last thing you want to see is a big 8-man running at you. And unfortunately, the guy with the mullet got run over. And here's Trey, the captain for Gibbons. He's one to watch.
That was a nice.
If he decides to play rugby, not football. There's Trey with the try for Gibbons on their narrow home field.
Oh my God!
But Charlie, this is the field they've got, and they play a game. You got to adjust to the field you have. You can't play expansive rugby on a field that's only 50 yards wide. So they play tight channel rugby, and they've got the bodies to do with it. Brock Weaver here.
It's going to be a little bit different against Okapi because Okapi has a wider field.
They do have a slightly wider field, but it's also
Yes.
turf. That's going to be one of the. Listen, there's so many great. We'll talk about the U19 quarterfinals in a little bit. There's so many great quarterfinal matchups in
This
the
is
U19s.
That kicker. I think he made all his kick but one. It was.
He's improved. He didn't kick very well in the game that I reffed, but he's improved quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. There's Trey again running through people. Get low, boys. We got to get low. You can't run without legs, Charlie. This is the first thing you teach kids.
Hey man, I'm a number 9, so that was my only choice.
You just got to get them down and get them down their knees and take them down. The bigger they are, the harder they'll fall if you get low enough. So here we are in the second half, and this is where things got silly, Charlie. There was a second yellow card. Do we have it here? I think this is the second yellow card on the cake number 10 going high again. And that reduced Gibbons Cape only showed up with 15. They'd lost 2 to injury in the first half. This reduced them to 12. And referee Mark Martinovich, this was early second half, right, Charlie? It wasn't much into the second half.
Like 10 minutes, something like that.
So the kid number 10 for Cape gets his third yellow because he already started with a yellow for his haircut.
And you can't actually play with 12. I looked up the laws, the rules of the FRYU, and you cannot play with 12.
Okay, I know you can't start. I knew you couldn't start with 12, but there's Pancho Lopez and Mark Martinovich who tried to continue the game. He had a chat with both coaches and asked if they wanted to play 10s or 12s. And unfortunately, as you'll see, I don't know if you'll see in a second, but Cape Pirates didn't want to have anything to do with playing with less than 15. So they just called it a day. Unfortunately, it was a shame because kids didn't get to play a full game of rugby. They came a long way. They probably could have played something, whether it was 10s or 12s. I know they were playing short-handed in the scrums at one point. But, Charlie, what do we have to say about the ending to this game? It was a little disappointing.
Well, it's not an ending you want to see because even that last image of, the one, what you want to see at the end of the game is actually that is pretty unique to rugby when the two teams, they have to salute each other. And many times, even after a hard game, when you pay attention and you look closely, when the teams are saluting themselves, I don't know if that's the right word, they actually they hugs and they're like happy that, after a hard game, no matter who won, that is like, for me, it's like the essence of it is.
It's the rugby brotherhood. After the game, everything that's gone on should be forgotten, and you've battled for 70 or 80 minutes, depending on your level, and then you shake hands. You have the tunnel. You have the guard of honor, as they call it in America, and then we go have a social. And unfortunately, this game ended as it did, and it was disappointing.
That last image for me was pretty sad, to see something like that, because that is the last thing you want to see as a coach, I think. And we did invite the Cape. I did email everybody. They just couldn't make it. But it would have been, who knows, maybe Brock shows up still. But it's just something that I put it a lot on the coaches, that they have to be very conscious about what are they doing, when they are coaching these kids, what they want to accomplish. Because of course everybody wants to win, but I think that the most important thing as a coach is you want to give the kids the experience of playing rugby. Yep. With all this stuff, and you know what, I was, you may have noticed in the presentation of the podcast, I've been adding a word to my I'm going to show this one. I can't really show it. I would have to take us off the screen, but there are 5 principles in rugby that are in the charter. If you read the law book, which you have, right. Of course. And the 5 things are passion, integrity, solidarity, discipline, and respect. These are the 5 basic values that we have to cherish and keep in rugby, at all costs. It's much more important to keep this in the sport than to win a game or, win or lose a game. That is just one game, but we have to keep the sport you know, with all these things in it.
Oh, listen, and I feel bad for some of those. I assume some of those Cape kids were seniors. That could have been their last game of rugby on Saturday, and for it to finish as it did. I understand that Cape were upset about the red card, but I think I didn't get to see the first yellow card, but the high tackle was certainly a yellow card worthy tackle. And it's unfortunate, but it you know, when you coach rugby, you take on that responsibility of teaching these kids about the culture of the game. We're a very different game than any other sport out there, and for good reason. We're not soccer. You know, there's not too many worldwide sports, right? Cricket. I mean, not every country plays cricket. Every country plays soccer, and every country plays rugby. And they're very different sports, and for good reason. They're a big part of the game of rugby is culture. And there are some coaches out there. I'm not saying that any of these coaches that were involved in this game on Saturday are these coaches, but there are coaches out there that don't understand that teaching the culture of rugby and teaching these kids to play the game they can be playing for the next 20 years is the number one priority. Winning is nice. Winning is nice. It obviously brings more talent, perhaps. But the way that game ended on Saturday just left a bad taste in my mouth, and I know yours. And hopefully, it won't sort of bleed into next season.
And this was not the first game in the season that ended this way. There was and it doesn't really matter at this point which clubs it is. The most important thing is that you have a rugby game between, you know, U19s that does not end because there are so many problems on the field. You know, 2 red cards, all kinds of you know, crazy stuff. I mean, that has to bring us some kind of pause and say, this cannot happen. And unfortunately, one thing that I always, you know, I don't like in our Florida rugby is that when this type of stuff happens, we tend to try to, you know,
brush it under the carpet
as soon as we can. And just if we cannot talk about it, this podcast is one way that we can bring these things out. And it's okay to talk about this. We have to talk about this. I inquired to the union about how many red cards we had this season, and I was told we had 4 red cards in the U19 division. That was pretty much the same as the last one. But this game's not ending is something that is absolutely unacceptable, and everybody should be outraged. Everybody. This should not happen. The first ones, of course, should be the coaches from that team that they are not providing their players with, you know, a full game, because we are not going to put it on the kids. The main responsibles are always going to be the coaches. Okay, so you have to, you know, look inside and see, okay, is this what I want to give these kids? I don't think they want that either. Okay, things can get, you know, maybe sometimes they get out of hand, whatever, but if this happens, then you have to stop and say, damn, this cannot happen again. This cannot happen again. And you know, I don't like to put it all on the blaming the referees, the union. You know, it's among everybody. You know, it's not just one sector. As
clubs have to look within. We talked to the Tridents as a club back in the fall, right? As an episode we did. They were a club that had a reputation as being a bunch of assholes that nobody wanted to play against, nobody wanted to referee because of the way they played the game. And that club turned things around. We talked to Jose Bermudez about this. We'll see if he joins us later on. We talked to Jose about how
he promised.
Yeah, we talked to the Tridents about how they turned things around. I know it's difficult and it's a different situation with the U19s, but with every club here, it has to start at the top, right? I hate to call out Cape, and that we gave them the opportunity to come here tonight and hold themselves accountable. But that game should never have ended like that. I know they were down to 12, but they had the opportunity to finish that game, and in whatever manner it was finished. They had a previous game this year that hadn't finished. There are other teams that are getting that reputation, not just at the U19 level, but at the men's senior level as well, of clubs that just I'm trying to think of the word, Charlie. It's just not rotten to the core. That's the wrong word I'm looking for, but just have that don't have the culture as their number one priority. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's a shame. I'm really hoping these U19 quarterfinals, which we're going to talk about in a minute, go smoothly this weekend. I've provided them with quality referees that I hope will ensure that these games. But in the end, the referee can only do so much. It comes down to the leadership of the club, the coaching of the club, to ensure that the players that take the field understand what rugby is about. That's what I have
you
to
know
say.
what one thing I find pretty sad is that you hear over and over again the losing team basing all their bad performance on the referee. It's even funny, because you never hear a winning team complaining about the referee. So and it goes to an extent that everything is a referee fault. Hey, listen, what about your guys? I mean,
No, listen, Roy's hanging out in the background. He can attest that we've had these.
I just wanted to show Chris Ream.
Chris Ream. That can't be safe. No. His legs. I can't even do that. I'm not allowed to do that out of an airplane. Chris Ream should not be allowed to do that out of a press box. Though I do know that press box is a safety hazard. Cardinal Gibbons has enough money to build a new press box. I'm begging you. I know Cardinal Gibbons is watching this. I was talking to a cameraman who films our games at Northbrow Prep last week, and he was saying just how dangerous that press box is. Even to get up there, you have to crawl through a crawl space to get up to the top, Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
Well, about a 2 foot by 2 foot hole to get up to the top of that press box.
After being on top of a ladder so many years, I don't mind that. It's pretty cool.
No,
and it makes for an awesome video also.
It does. All right. Before we get to the other scores from this weekend, let's represent our sponsor once more, Charlie. 401k FL. If you have a 401k or want a 401k or even run a 401k, the team at 401k FL, led by Mick Graham, has the experience to tackle your retirement needs in gold. Visit 401kfl.com to kick things off. All right, let's go. We only had 2 other games. They were both D2 quarterfinals. One went to plan. One perhaps didn't go quite to plan. So we don't have any highlights.
Depending on who plans you're talking about. Everybody
you and I picked winners in this game. You and I picked winners in these games. We both thought that Orlando would handle Miami, and they did. Yeah. 46-7. And then I thought Boca would be able to perhaps edge Tampa. You took Tampa, and you won that one.
You owe me money, Ross. I don't.
It was a very low-scoring game.
It may be illegal, but you owe me money.
It was only. I'll send your boys over to come get it from the 305. So it was only a 3-3 game at the half, and Tampa, with the home field advantage, managed to edge Boca 15-3. So as a result, Orlando will visit Naples in the D2 semifinal next weekend, right, Charlie? Not this weekend.
Well, I got my nice graphics all updated. See,
there it is. So there's no D2 games this weekend. So the 17th, Naples will host Orlando, as you can see on the right side of your screen there, and Tampa will visit the Miami Tridents. We won't predict those games right now because they're going to be next weekend. I think I know who I'll pick in those 2 games. But
you do?
2 exciting semifinals, I think, Charlie.
Yeah. I think I have my picks. But we're going to hold them till next week?
We'll hold those till next week.
Okay.
All right. So speaking of next week, let's get to the loaded schedule for April 10th. As I adjust myself here in my chair. Let's get to the loaded schedule for April 10th. Now, as Charlie said in my show notes, remind the clubs that if you have highlights or any video or photos of these games, they will be featured on TFRA. I know you or your minions will be taping some of these games, Charlie.
We're going to be taping everything that goes on at Okapi. I'm trying to tape the women also, but I'm finding a little bit of not much interest.
Come on, women.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
Charlie's willing to come up there and tape the games.
So we'll see
get your act together. Anyway, let's see here. I know it's not all the teams, but let's take a look. We do have one D3 quarterfinal that was postponed from this past weekend because Sarasota had some COVID issues. So Sarasota will play at Jacksonville on the 10th. Do you want to do predictions as we go through these games, Charlie?
Okay, sure.
This one's going to be an interesting game, Charlie. Sarasota at Jacksonville. How are Jackson? I'm going to pull up some scores on my computer here because some of these teams that are on the other side of the state don't always get my full attention, especially as I don't see videos from those games. I only see full reports. So Jacksonville got hammered by Brevard. beat Gainesville, lost to Orlando, hammered again by Brevard, and then spanked Gainesville. But two wins. Two of their wins were over Gainesville, and they lost 48-5 to Orlando. I'm going to go with Sarasota here, Charlie, in this one.
You know what? I think still Jacksonville is going to have the edge because the traveling is going to be, I think, a problem for Sarasota that has not done very well either, right?
This is true. Sarasota hasn't done particularly well. I'm going to go for an upset victory, though.
Okay. Well, good.
Just to keep things interesting. All right, the next one down here,
and the money
we have
going.
a U23 playing game, which is one of the 3 games going on in Weston at Tequesta Trace Park. So if you're a rugby fan in South Florida and you're starved for rugby, 3 games at Okapi this weekend, U23, U19s, as well as D4. So the first one is Okapi, the team formerly known as FIU, but they're sort of...
Why don't we go by Ross? Why don't we get the divisions? Because that's how they are.
Well, we did D3. Now we're going to U23. I'm going down the list here. So it's a U23 playing game.
What list? Oh, I don't know. Well, I'm looking at the screen.
Oh, I'm looking at the other screen. Well, listen, let's just knock out U23 first because there's only one game.
Okay.
So Okapi hosting Gainesville, a team formerly known as UF. I think I'm going with FIU in this one. Excuse me, Okapi.
Yeah, so am I.
So Okapi with the win.
They're going to be very motivated, and I think it's going to be a very nice environment because Okapi has this youth festival earlier. So, and they're going to have the D4 game before this one. So I think there's going to be like a lot of people around, which always makes for a much more exciting game.
It does. All right, let's get going. It's 8:08 here, Charlie. I know we're going to have an open mic. So see Jose Bermudez hanging out. The winner of that game plays Palm Beach, and then Orlando plays Tallahassee in the other semifinal next weekend. So let's go to D4. Daytona hosting SoFlo. The big question in this game is, will it happen? Charlie, that's the question. I'm not even going to ask for a prediction here. Will this game happen?
I think it's going to happen. I think these guys are going to go,
Okay, and I think Daytona wins this one handily.
They need to go. Oh, I'm not that sure.
Yes, Daytona wins this one handily, led by by former FAU Owl star Skip Parr at number 8. Daytona wins this one by at least 2 or 3 tries. The second D4 quarterfinal, and also in Western, Okapi hosting Ave Maria.
Wow, that's going to be a fun one.
We love Ave Maria, and we love Ave Maria, and their insane photos. They're about as insane as that town in general.
Yeah,
I did see a billboard for Ave Maria on 995 yesterday, Charlie. It was saying, "Escape the chaos, come to Ave Maria." I said, "Have you been to Ave Maria?"
I talked to the coach during the week, and they're pretty excited to come over and to actually have a good game there. This is the coach is an ex-player. He's just like 23 or 4, and he came back to teach, I think, there. So that's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to go for Okapi.
I think it'll be a little closer than people think because I think Okapi will be a little drained with having to field both sides on the same day. U4, 3 teams on the same day: D4, U23, and U19s. But I think Okapi will edge that one, but closer than people think. The next one is Lakeland hosting Ocala. I have no idea, Charlie.
That's going to be a tight one, I think.
I think it will be. I think that might be a very fun game. I'm gonna pick Ocala only because it's run by an FAU alumnus.
See, I'm going to go with Lakeland.
Okay, Charlie's going with Lakeland. I'm going with Ocala. And the final D4 quarterfinal, Tallahassee hosting Indian River / Claymores. We were talking to Corky Newman earlier. He's not sure if that game's going to happen, but Indian River, they are playing with the Claymores. They may have enough to go up there, but I think Tallahassee wins that one comfortably.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. U19s. I'm just going down the list. Women are next. Women are next. I'm looking at the wrong list. Women. Orlando, these games are in Brevard. Orlando playing Fort Miami, the 1 versus 4, and then Tampa Crew playing Jacksonville, the 2 versus 3 seed. Do you like the higher seeds both in this one, Charlie?
Yeah,
I think I do.
I think it is. Yeah.
I think Fort Miami will hang around like they did against Orlando in the first game, which was down in Fort Miami. But I think Orlando will pull away to win that one by a couple of tries at least. And I think we'll have a rematch of last week's Orlando-Tampa game in the final on the 24th. U19s. This is where it gets interesting, Charlie.
Very
Although
interesting.
I think this first game is going to be. I think Hammerheads handled Tampa Crew. They just played each other recently, I think.
They did a couple of weeks ago.
And I think Hammerheads took care of them rather easily. Tampa's had a rough time going on the road. I think Naples wins that one by at least 3 or 4 tries. The other 3 games are going to be tight, Charlie. Let's go down the list here. Boca hosting Key Biscayne, a game that I'm apparently refereeing. This is the first I've heard of it.
Really? Well, good luck.
I'm just kidding. 12:30 on Saturday at Don Estridge Middle. Boca hosting Key Biscayne. This is the second most. I'm not as excited about this one as I am about Okapi Gibbons, but Boca Key Biscayne. Boca got off to a slow start, got hammered, Charlie, by these Key Biscayne Rats down there in the first week of the season, but they haven't lost since then.
And that very rainy day that we had, remember?
It absolutely poured down. I do remember that. But Boca came into the season as one of those teams that people thought might win the state title. So I'm going to pick Boca to win this one, but in a close game, maybe 7 to 10 points.
It's definitely going to be a very close game. I'm going to go with the Key Biscayne Rats.
Okay. I think Boca will just have too much size for Key Biscayne.
But it's just going to be like, I think it's going to be like a 2-3 points game.
Okay. Jacksonville hosting Wellington. A long trip for the Wizards, who have been up and down this season. But Jacksonville just came down and got destroyed by somebody down here. Who was it, Charlie?
Gibbons.
It was by Gibbons.
Yeah.
So Jacksonville, not the best traveling team, but they are tough to beat at home. I think I like Jacksonville in this one by perhaps 5 to 8 points.
I agree.
Okay. And then the last one, the one everybody's looking forward to, Okapi as the 2 seed, taking on Gibbons as the 8 seed. Don't ask me why the 2 seed is playing the 8 seed. I'm not going to go into that. But Okapi are hosting Gibbons. This one, Charlie, I'm going to call it a tie because I have no idea who's going to win.
You coward!
No, seriously, I'm gonna give it. Whew, I don't know, man. I'm gonna give it to Okapi, but in a very, very close game. It was 28-10 last time with a couple of debatable tries that perhaps should have been called back for knock-ons. But I'm going to give it to Okapi at home, but it's going to be a very, very tight game.
I think it's going to depend mostly on how both teams, execute their strategies, because definitely Okapi is a much less physical team.
But they have better rugby skills.
But they have better rugby skills, and I think it's really going to come down to that, and it's going to be close, of course. I think Okapi is going to make it, as the same thing as like Key Biscayne and Boca. It's going to be like 2-3 points. They have a very good kicker. The Gibbons guy has also improved a lot, as we saw.
That could be the difference. That's true, Charlie. Any penalties in that half? The Okapi kicker. What's his name? Pierce, the left footer redhead that's going to Georgia. University of Georgia.
Johnny Pierce.
Yeah, he's a great kicker, and it could be the difference in that game. Why are Boca people giving me grief in the chat? I picked Boca to win.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. I was just stating facts that they got hammered in that first game of the season. I know Chris said he wasn't coming on, but he's giving me grief in the chat. Chris,
they're not going to treat you well when you go to ref over there, I think.
Listen, all I see is red versus blue, Charlie. You know that. All right, it's 8:15. Yeah. We might get done by 8:30 here.
Yeah, so let's bring in.
Bermudez is hanging about. Roy's still here. Roy, if Roy wants to jump in, bring Roy in. Roy's playing on his phone.
Let's put him on spot. Okay, there he is.
Bring him in here. Jose, how are we doing?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely great. And all this extra time that we have in between now and the semis is really doing great things for my tan. So I really want to thank the union for giving us so much off time.
See, I was going to say, you guys don't play again till the 17th. What do you know about Tampa?
No, I mean, we actually, I'm trying to see if I could buy some videos off of any guys in the union.
I know a guy, Jose. If the offer is right, I know a guy.
Hey, so if you guys see Charlie with a bunch of gear next week, we got the video.
For next season, I am probably going to have a team on the the West Coast to tape, Tampa, Pelicans, Naples. I'm working on that because we never get video from these guys.
No. We're actually very excited to be playing Tampa. It's been a long time since we played them. They definitely seem to have had a good season against. They played one of the toughest teams in the entire state, which is Naples. Which for the past few years we've had really tough, difficult matches that have come to the last bit. So knowing that we're playing a team like Tampa and in the future possibly playing Naples, it really is exciting for us, and we're not taking it lightly. We're training as much as we can and giving fitness sessions during the weekends to keep the guys active. You were just there with Old Red Eyes. We tried to get a match with them, but it was a little bit difficult during Easter weekend. So we'll stay active.
I mean, without getting into too much detail, Jose, Triton's relatively healthy?
Oh, absolutely. Aside from our drinking issues, I think we're generally healthy too.
Charlie,
we don't have any major injuries right now, so luckily we're going into the game very healthy. We did lose one of our starting 15s that is moving to Spain, Jacques, which is a French player. He played at fullback, and we're certainly going to miss him. His wife had a great job opportunity working at L'Oreal in Spain, so he left us this week. But that's really not off.
You always got Frenchie, anyways. So
I was going to say there is a limit. There is a limit. There is a limit, Jose. A French person limit per team.
No,
you can't. It's not a law thing. You just can't have too many. If you have too many French people, the chances of you winning are slim to none.
Last year I as a running joke, I bought berets with the team logo, and I did a head count. I did a head count thinking I'm going to buy 5 or 6, and then a guy with a Japanese name comes and starts speaking French, and he says that his mother's French. I ended up buying 15 that particular season. So I had guys that were English and Welsh that were claiming French nationalities. I've never seen that in my life, but these guys just wanted a free beret apparently.
Yeah, listen, Miami is the magic city, right? We have people from all over the world here, and you guys have certainly benefited from that over the last few years with the number of foreign players. Is there a foreign player limit? Roy might know the answer to this one. Is there a foreign player limit, Charlie? I mean, well, maybe is it outside of Florida though?
There used to be a foreign player limit when you were playing.
The next round, right?
Nationals,
But it's a moot point right now, so no one's counting.
Yeah, Ross. The past few years they have limited 5 foreign players.
5, that's it.
And what's difficult about that is that when you go into the national competition, you have guys that have been in Miami or been in Florida for a number of years with a working visa or with a green card, and that's not allowed. So I think that is something that they've taken into consideration, because certainly, a team like ours, we've had guys that have played for 2 years. We had Oliver Hire, who
we had him on the show
from the played with the Panthers. He was questionable in eligibility. So but he has his wife here, 2 kids here. But it made it very difficult for some of the guys. It's not like
maybe we need to have a residency rule like World Rugby does, which it was 3 years, but now it's gone to 5. I don't think it should be a 5-year residency rule for Florida, but perhaps a 2 or 3 year residency rule that you can prove you've been here that long and have got a green card. I don't think that should count against your international players.
We barely have players to actually have a season. Come on, relax.
I'm not talking about this year.
Just
I'm talking about next year.
Play. Yeah,
Charlie, do you have any topics to discuss that you really want to bring up? Because we've got 10 minutes before the wife gets on.
This has never happened. See, now I'm off guard.
I'm putting the pressure.
We're not running. Let me go through my.
Maybe go to your list here. What do we want to talk about?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna ask Jose, because I asked Corky if they did reach the final and win it, if they were willing to go and play the winner of the D2. Yes. So I'm going to ask the same thing to Jose, if you guys would be willing to play the winner of the D3 championship a couple of weeks after.
Charlie, honestly, we're focused on that Tampa game on the 17th, and it would be difficult.
Are they getting media training in Miami? What is going on here?
No, but we have a lot of respect to the guys in the competition. And certainly, I mean, we will commit on behalf of the Tridents. We will commit to any type of game outside of the Florida Championship, just because we want to play as many games as possible. We want to make things happen, and we want to continue. I don't know what the 7th season looks like in the summer. Haven't really heard much. So any games that we could play, count on us. And if we have any injuries or anything, we certainly invite the South Florida teams to join. But I think it's a great idea, Charlie. It's certainly for a long time in the union, people have been questioning whether D2 or D3 is best. And I think it's only been a logistical issue. Some teams that have limitations on being able to travel. But, we played Palm Beach early in the season, and they gave us one hell of a match. And so I think it's a matter of, getting things right and figuring out what the particular needs of every team is as far as financials, as far as being able to travel. But, I mean, big respect to the D3 teams. We played friendlies against them, and we don't take them lightly. We don't look at them as a lesser division of Florida rugby. We look at them just as premier. They're men. They're hardworking guys, just like all of us. And so I think it would be a great showcase just to see the talent in Florida.
Well, there has been discussions over the last couple of seasons of merging D2 and D3. But Charlie, let's wrap things up with this discussion that you and I always talk about: is having a longer season. Jose, Miami. I remember back in the day, Miami teams never really got going before January. Even if they did play in November, December, it was a shit show until January, when everybody sort of said, "Oh, now we're going to start playing." How do the Tridents feel about having a longer season? I mean, we used to start, in October. League season used to start in November. We'd have a couple of games before Thanksgiving, and a couple of games in December, and then really get things going in January. But things have changed now. How do you and the Tridents feel about that?
I think it all comes down to how many games we're able to schedule in the season. Because if we got 10 games or 12 games in the season, I think sandwiching in that period of time in December to recover and to work through some of the injuries, I think it's great. I know in the past we've had seasons that we played 3 or 4 games in October, November, December. So I think it's a great model. It starts guys focusing throughout the year. We would be definitely open to it. We played a lot of friendlies before, so it all depends on how many games we're able to get and how. Evan and Kerry do such a great job in communicating before the year starts, and really trying to figure out logistically how many games would be ideal. I know in the annual meeting we discussed this as well.
Yeah.
And I think I know particularly we enjoy those 3 weeks off to work through injuries and really have an opportunity to assess the rest of the teams in the union as well.
Now, Roy, from your point of view, from an FRU/FRA perspective, you've gone through years where we've had longer seasons versus shorter seasons. What is the sort of season that you would favor?
I'm all for playing. It's leaving it to the teams, to work out as they do every year at the AGM how they want the season to run. But obviously, from a referee's perspective, the more games we get, the better. Logistically for us, as you're well aware, as the one who has to do the schedule.
Yes.
When we have weekends during the spring where we have men's, women's, under 23s, under 19s, all happening on the same weekend, it can stretch us dramatically to the point where we sometimes can't cover every single game. So stretching the season out a little bit so we don't have those type of weekends where everybody's playing on the same weekend would certainly make it easier logistically for us. But the more games, the better. As far as we're concerned, the more experience the referees get, the better they become.
You have less injuries also.
Yeah, no, I think I like to go back to the days of when we had all Florida weekend in October.
That was great. That was
It was a
great.
big focus, especially for referee development and for teams to really get a look at who they have on their roster to be able to put guys in there in games that don't really count.
That's one
we
thing.
talked about having two all Florida weekends, perhaps one in October, one in November, and then starting the season, perhaps in December with a couple of games before Christmas.
You're getting very ambitious, Ross. Two all Florida days. That would be awesome. Because you know what? Another thing that was great about All Florida Day, there are a lot of things from the referee standpoint. I remember that was when Cisco started and Mateo, they because you got these shorter games, and there's one thing that I think that we have lost a little bit of sight is that was the one occasion where you had pretty much everybody from Florida in one place, so you could meet people that you would never meet otherwise. That social aspect. I think it's that was a great thing. That was once we stopped doing it, we lost it a little bit. It would be nice.
I definitely agree with you, Charlie. We do definitely miss the All Florida weekend. The ability to have, from the referee's perspective,
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back.
Location.
Jose.
No, I think we'll talk about that in the AGM. Jose as a Trident.
We're not talking about that. They're going to talk about it.
No, and you know what? I think looking at the Surfing Sevens tournament and looking at some of the tournaments that have happened, Fort Lauderdale's Ruggerfest as well. I think the union and Florida Rugby needs to take advantage that there's a lot of states out there that have not had an opportunity to play any rugby. So if we could plan something in whether it's just Florida teams, I think in the next year, I mean, you have guys traveling from Alaska to play in Florida.
Yeah,
I think that could really promote the sport and Florida rugby. We have guys from different levels of experience coming from all throughout. We certainly had a very nice experience playing against the Harpooners at Florida's at Fort Lauderdale's Ruggerfest. So I think it's a matter of now focusing on just getting as much rugby in as possible. I think working at the All Florida they should be a given, but we need to look at other options as well, because we're very lucky in Florida to have the opportunity to play rugby, and it's really up to us. So if there's any other club presidents out there that want to work on something with the Tridents or with some of the teams down in Florida, let's start communicating. It's not just about the championship, but really about the sport. And I'm really encouraged to see the great work that you guys are doing with the under 23 teams, with the youth leagues. I mean, it really is amazing, and that's really what we love to see. So if we could incorporate as many more tournaments and create them, I say, you know what, you have one guy that will line the pitch for you. And
when are you starting?
U23s is a discussion for another day. I was talking to a coach actually yesterday about, do we need U23s instead of college rugby? That's a discussion for another day there. But if you don't like playing sevens during the summer, you can always go play rugby league. I saw there was a nines tournament happening in Tampa this summer, a nine-a-side women's tournament. So there's going to be tons of rugby league. For those of you that don't want to play sevens, you can go play that god-awful sport. But, Charlie, it's almost 8:30.
Yeah, I just have to ask Jose, when are you guys starting the baby Tridents, the little ones?
Yes.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
Tridents. We practice every weekend on creating new baby Tridents. I don't know.
So 5 years, Charlie, is the answer. Five years plus 9 months.
I thought it was a little
answer
bit
to that one.
ahead.
I
Okay.
got to tell you, we have a couple of the guys in the Key Rats that are Tridents, and we have a couple of the fathers that are participating in the coaching, and that really is great. And I look forward to seeing some of those kids playing for us in the next coming years. We certainly are lucky to have such committed players.
Okay.
100%. Well, gentlemen, Jose, Roy, thanks for joining us this evening on the Free For All. Thanks,
you,
Chris
Jose.
Vassell, for not showing up. We would never have got out of here 8:30 if that loudmouth had joined us.
And
so
listen,
it's good to have 1 week without him.
Give me 1 second, because I do have a picture of Chris Vassell that I have to show.
Scandalous.
Yes.
This is a scandalous photo that will shake the rugby world in Florida.
Okay,
Before we
here it is. I should have had it ready. But,
That's all right. Just I'm going to take a nap and just wake me up when it's ready, because I didn't sleep too well last night. I'm already getting I'm already getting texts from people that I look rough.
Okay, no, I don't
HD
have it
camera.
handy.
Anyway, Chris Vassell had an Adidas hat on at
Yes.
Tropical Sevens this weekend instead of a Go All Day hat. So we have to give him plenty of grief for that next time he comes on.
He's in trouble with his sponsor.
He is in trouble. I know his son lost in the championship game of, was it U18s, Charlie, or U16?
Yeah.
I think it was U18s, right? Because there wasn't a U16s, boys.
U18s.
But
for the
looking
USA
forward to a
side.
great weekend of rugby coming up, Charlie. We're going to have I don't know how we're going to keep next weekend under 90 minutes. We might just have to go straight to game of the week.
Next weekend is going to be a 3-hour show. Okay.
I'll tell the wife.
When
she walks in 2 minutes. There he is with an Adidas hat on. Photo by Tom Champa, who is official photographer of the tournament apparently this weekend. Look at that. Teddy Chapman, if you're watching this, if you're paying Chris Vassell to be one of your representatives, then you should be taking some out of his check next time.
Get a refund. Okay.
Exactly. What's with the neck? Is it? I assume that's a gaiter around his neck. Who wears it? I mean, he's wearing
He thinks he's in Hollywood. This guy. I don't know.
He doesn't look like a rugby parent or a coach. He's come off the slopes and he's having a beer in the ski lodge.
Yeah.
With his sweater. Anyway.
Screw him.
Gentlemen, Jose, Roy, thanks for joining us as always.
Good night,
Charlie,
everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for your amazing work as always on the producing side of things. Chris B says, huge weekend of rugby coming up on the 10th. If you can get out to your local area and watch a playoff game. Listen, playoff rugby is very different than regular season rugby. That's why we're having 3-man teams on these games, because the stakes are higher. The parents yell a lot louder. The relatives yell a lot louder, and things get a little crazy sometimes. But hopefully, we don't have any incidents this weekend. Everything runs smoothly, and we have some fun contested games of rugby. As always, you can check out the podcast on any major podcast platform, or you can watch the video replay on YouTube or Facebook. As always, Charlie, thanks for your amazing work, and everybody for joining us this evening, Corky especially. And we'll see you all next week for a recap of the first proper round of the playoffs.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you,
Thank you,
boys.
guys.